This story begins in Agra, India. At the time, India had already been under British rule for decades, and in 1887, a man named Abdul Karim was working as a clerk in an Indian prison, recording information for the inmates. One day, Abdul was summoned to the prison chief's office. There, he was told that the British governor in India was looking for a tall man to personally deliver a ceremonial medal to Queen Victoria. At first, Abdul assumed the Queen would be coming to India, but instead he learned that he would be traveling all the way to England to present the medal to her in person. For Abdul, this was an incredible honor, so of course he accepted. Not long after that, Abdul was sent off and introduced to Major Birch, the man assigned to supervise him for this important duty. Abdul would not be traveling alone either. Another man named Muhammad was chosen to accompany him, and together the two of them set sail for England on a journey that would take about 2 months at sea. During the voyage, Abdul and Muhammad were carefully briefed on all the rules they had to follow. And according to Major Birch, the most important rule of all was that they were not to have any contact with the Queen, not even eye contact. At the same time, the story also takes us to Buckingham Palace, where Queen Victoria lives. From the moment she wakes up in the morning, her day is completely controlled. A group of servants attends to her, dresses her in elaborate clothes, and reads out a packed schedule that keeps her busy from morning until night. After 2 long months at sea, Abdul and Muhammad finally arrive in England. They do not even get the chance to unpack before being rushed straight to the palace for a rehearsal. They are taught exactly how to carry the tray.
That's it. Presenting the tray thus.
How to enter the room, and even how to walk back out. Abdul's role is simple. He must hand the medal to Queen Victoria, then step away by walking backward without making any form of contact with her.
You will turn to your left, you will lead thus, and you will process down the hall.
Once everything is ready, Abdul and Muhammad wait in their assigned place until their moment arrives. Soon, important guests from many different countries begin entering the palace for Queen Victoria's celebration. After everyone is seated and the royal banquet begins, the food is served. And eventually the time comes for the medal presentation, an honor sent by the Emperor of India to recognize the Queen's service. Abdul and Muhammad step forward to present it. Everything goes according to plan at first, just like in rehearsal. But as Abdul walks backward, he suddenly makes eye contact with Queen Victoria. That one mistake is enough to get him scolded by Major Birch right away. The next morning during breakfast, Sir Henry goes over the Queen's schedule as usual. After that, he asks what she thought of the medal, delivered by the 2 Indian servants the day before. But instead of commenting on the medal itself, Queen Victoria focuses on something else entirely. She says that one of the 2 men, the tall one, was remarkably handsome. And of course, she is talking about Abdul. And from that moment, their unexpected connection begins. This is Victoria and Abdul. Major Birch quickly rushes after Abdul and Muhammad, who are already preparing to return to India. But suddenly, everything changes. Queen Victoria wants them to stay a little longer and serve again at a royal garden party, where world leaders will be in attendance. They are instructed to bring a royal pudding, a type of jelly that is considered a delicacy among the aristocracy. During the event, as Queen Victoria sits with the British Prime Minister and the King of Sweden, Abdul steps forward and carefully serves the jelly. But just as he finishes his task, something unexpected happens. Abdul kneels down and kisses the Queen's feet, a gesture of respect that is common in his culture. To him, it feels natural, but to everyone else in the room, it is shocking. Major Birch is furious. He immediately scolds Abdul, fearing that this incident could cost him his own position, since Abdul is under his responsibility. And yet, instead of punishment, something surprising happens. Sir Henry arrives with news that the Queen wants Abdul and Muhammad to continue serving her for the remainder of the celebrations. From that moment on, their roles begin to change. On another day, Abdul is assigned to stand beside the Queen's table, while Sir Henry, who usually accompanies her, is asked to leave. For the first time, Abdul finds himself alone with the Queen. At first, he is nervous, but he tries to help by assisting her with sealing letters. To ease the tension, he begins talking about his daily life in India, mentioning how he also writes regularly. The Queen misunderstands and assumes he is a writer, not just a servant. She becomes curious about why someone like him would be placed in such a position. Abdul responds with humility, expressing that it is an honor to serve her. That answer alone is enough to impress the queen. He then goes on to talk about carpets, even claiming that he personally selected one for her. He explains the artistry behind them, especially those from Persia. Something as simple as this fascinates the queen, because it introduces her to a world she has never truly known. Outside the room, the palace staff quietly listen in, curious about what is happening between them. While Abdul is thrilled by this opportunity, Muhammad feels the opposite. He is frustrated, believing they should have already returned to India if Abdul had not kissed the queen's feet. On top of that, he struggles with the cold English weather, which is very different from what he is used to. On another day, while serving the queen in her garden, Abdul is asked about his hometown. He proudly shares that he comes from Agra, home to the Taj Mahal, which he describes as one of the most beautiful structures in the world. He tells the story of how it was built by Shah Jahan for his late wife, and once again, his storytelling captivates the queen, making her even more curious. From there, Abdul begins talking about Indian spices and fruits, especially mangoes. The queen is surprised to realize she has never tasted a mango before. As their bond continues to grow, it starts to worry the people around her. Figures like Sir Henry, Lady Churchill, and the royal doctor James Reed begin to feel uneasy.
What can they be talking about? A servant and an Indian.
What on earth does she see in him?
Still, the queen does not seem to care. After hearing about mangoes, she even orders Sir Henry to bring one to England, simply because she wants to taste it for herself. Abdul and Muhammad remain her personal attendants, even accompanying her on a trip to Scotland. Away from the palace, the queen feels more at ease. Unlike the rigid environment of court life, these journeys give her a sense of freedom, far from the suffocating pressures of politics. One day at the palace, Sir Henry is once again asked to leave the room, even though there are important parliamentary documents that need attention. He clearly feels uneasy about leaving Abdul Karim alone to assist the queen with such serious matters.
You may go. I'm perfectly capable of working through the boxes. Abdul is very helpful with his blotter.
But Abdul is a servant. He cannot assist with the boxes.
And I am the Queen of England.
But when Queen Victoria gives an order, there is no room for refusal. She chooses who she wants to work with, and no one can question it. Now alone together, the queen makes an unusual request. She wants Abdul to teach her Hindi in private lessons. But Abdul explains that India has hundreds of languages, and teaching Hindi would not be simple. Instead, he suggests something else. Since the queen is the Empress of India, he decides to teach her Urdu, a language he considers more refined and suitable for someone of her status, and one that is closely tied to Muslim culture in India. Outside the room, Sir Henry and the others can hardly believe what they are hearing. The idea of the queen learning Urdu from an Indian servant feels completely unacceptable to them. When the lesson ends, her son Bertie is already waiting outside. He is clearly uncomfortable with the situation and believes the queen should not be learning such things, especially in front of servants. Feeling that she has no privacy in the palace, the queen decides to take Abdul to Osborne House, a quiet residence where she can escape the constant pressure of court life. There she feels free from the aristocrats she has dealt with her entire life, people she sees as always competing for status and favor. In this more peaceful setting, the queen opens up about her past, including the loss of her former trusted servant, John Brown. She has been lonely for a long time, tired of the routines and the politics that surround her. Abdul listens and gently offers a different perspective, suggesting that everything may serve a greater purpose. He even shares teachings from the Quran, reflecting on kindness and meaning. It is here that the queen discovers something new about Abdul. He is not Hindu, as she may have assumed, but Muslim. And even more surprising, he is a Hafiz, someone who has memorized the entire Quran, all 114 chapters and thousands of verses. To her, this is extraordinary. Yet instead of being troubled by this, the queen becomes even more intrigued. She does not feel threatened at all. In fact, she elevates him further, asking him to become her teacher. From that moment on, Abdul is no longer just a servant. He becomes her guide, teaching her Urdu, sharing knowledge from the Quran, and offering whatever wisdom he has. This shift alarms many within the palace. Figures like Sir Henry and the royal doctor, James Reed, begin to worry that the queen is losing her judgment. They fear how the church, especially the archbishop, might react to the news that a Muslim man has become so close to the queen. Her growing fascination with Indian and Islamic culture only deepens their concern, but the queen remains firm. To her, Abdul is not a servant but a learned man, a scholar with deep knowledge and faith. She makes it clear to Bertie that Abdul's status has changed and that Muhammad will now serve under him. Even though Bertie strongly disagrees, he has no choice but to accept her decision. At one point, Abdul and Muhammad are invited to travel to Italy with the Queen's royal entourage. For Muhammad, this only adds to his frustration. Instead of going home, he feels even more trapped because of Abdul's growing closeness to the Queen. He warns Abdul that people in the palace may become jealous, and that this kind of attention could be dangerous. During the journey, Queen Victoria gives Abdul a special gift, a locket with her photo inside, as a sign of appreciation for becoming her teacher. When they arrive in Florence, the Queen attends a private opera performance arranged for the royal group. She enjoys it immensely, even though the rest of the entourage seems far less impressed. At one moment, Abdul encourages her to sing. She hesitates at first, but eventually gives in. Her voice turns out to be far from graceful, high and off-key, but that does not stop the people around her from praising her anyway. Despite the awkwardness, the moment lifts her spirits. She feels lighter, more entertained, and even ends up sharing a dance with Abdul outside. In that moment, Abdul expresses just how important she has become to him, someone he values deeply. When the Queen learns that Abdul is already married, she is genuinely surprised. Without hesitation, she orders him to return to India and bring his wife back to England.
Wife?
Yes.
Why didn't you tell me you were married?
I didn't think it mattered.
Well, of course it matters. You must return to India immediately. And bring her back at once.
Months pass and Abdul eventually returns, this time with his family. The Queen welcomes him with warmth and excitement, far more than she would for any visiting dignitary. Many are shocked to see Abdul arrive with his wife and mother-in-law, both dressed in burqas. But to the Queen, there is nothing strange about it. In fact, she sees it as something dignified. Not long after, the Queen visits Abdul's home for tea, bringing along her entire family, from her children to her grandchildren. She is clearly delighted to have him back, but her family feels the opposite. To them, Abdul's presence is deeply unsettling, and they begin to believe that the Queen is being influenced in ways they do not trust. Even the Prime Minister, Lord Salisbury, grows increasingly uncomfortable, especially during the unveiling of the Durbar Room, a space the Queen creates to display gifts from India. To her, it is completely natural since she sees herself as the Empress of India, but to others it only reinforces their concerns. In front of the Queen, everyone offers polite praise. Behind her back, they criticize everything. Even her own son, Edward VII, begins to believe that she has lost her judgment. To celebrate the completion of the Durbar Room, Sir Henry finally presents the mango that the Queen had once requested.
But to celebrate the completion of the Durbar Room, a little surprise, Your Majesty.
What is it?
A mango, Your Majesty.
Unfortunately, by the time it arrives, the fruit has already spoiled, leaving him embarrassed.
I'm terribly sorry, Your Majesty.
Later, the evening continues with a small theatrical performance organized by members of the court, including Lady Churchill. Muhammad once again warns Abdul that he is pushing things too far, that the court will not tolerate this behavior for long. But Abdul remains confident, believing that everything will be fine. The performance begins with Abdul taking on the role of a Persian king. It is all meant to entertain the Queen, and it succeeds in making her happy. But for many others, it is simply too much. At this point, the Prime Minister becomes convinced that something must be done. He believes the stability of the monarchy is at risk, and he urges Sir Henry to take action and put an end to the situation. Later, in a private sitting room, Sir Henry speaks frankly to Queen Victoria. He explains that the Prime Minister is deeply displeased with what happened that night, and that the root of the problem may be Abdul. There is growing concern that Abdul is gaining too much influence within the royal court, and because he is Muslim, it could create tension back in India. The Queen responds by saying that Britain owes a great deal to Muslims in India, believing they helped suppress earlier uprisings. But Sir Henry and the royal doctor, James Reed, quickly correct her. They explain that the rebellion was actually led by Muslims.
But the mutiny was a Muslim-led revolt, Your Majesty.
The Grand Mufti himself put out a fatwa against you personally, Your Majesty, and Muslim soldiers murdered over 2,000 British personnel.
Hearing this, the queen is shaken. She begins to feel embarrassed and disappointed. Later, she expresses that disappointment toward Abdul Karim. She cannot understand why he would hide such important truths from her, especially after everything she has done. To her, it feels like a betrayal that has embarrassed her in front of the entire court. Abdul tries to reassure her, explaining that not all Muslims oppose British rule, even if some were involved in the rebellion. Still, the queen feels conflicted. That night, with a heavy heart, she decides that Abdul should return to India, despite everything he has done for her. But as the night goes on, she begins to rethink her decision. Unable to ignore her feelings, she goes to Abdul's residence and speaks with him again. She admits her disappointment, but also reflects on his loyalty. In the end, she realizes that perhaps he was trying to protect her rather than deceive her. As a ruler, she still feels hurt, but she chooses to let him stay. Abdul, of course, is deeply grateful. The next morning, the situation takes an even more unusual turn. The queen orders James Reed to examine Abdul and his wife, as she expresses a desire for a Muslim child to be born within the palace. Sir Henry is stunned, especially since everyone believed Abdul and his family were about to leave. It becomes clear that the queen has completely changed her mind. News of this quickly reaches Bertie. Furious, he orders Sir Henry and James to dig up anything they can use against Abdul. He wants the situation resolved as quickly as possible. Soon after, James carries out his examination at Abdul's residence. After checking both Abdul and his wife, he discovers that Abdul is suffering from a venereal disease. At the same time, Bertie and Sir Henry approach Muhammad in the servants' quarters. Knowing that Muhammad has been struggling with the cold climate and poor health, Sir Henry offers him a chance to return to India. In exchange, he asks Muhammad to reveal any weaknesses or faults Abdul might have. But instead of cooperating, Muhammad surprises them. He points out the truth they refuse to see, that the kingdom itself is in turmoil, and that they are panicking over the influence of a single Muslim servant. Even as Bertie insists that they are the most powerful nation in the world, Muhammad's words expose the fear beneath that confidence. At another moment, Bertie, Sir Henry, and James approach Queen Victoria while she is studying with Abdul Karim. As soon as Abdul steps out of the room, they present what they have uncovered. Sir Henry claims that Abdul is a fraud. According to him, Abdul was never formally educated in India and worked only as a simple prison clerk. He even provides documents to support these claims. Instead of accepting this, the queen becomes furious. She sees their actions as invasive and deeply prejudiced, accusing them of spying on Abdul just to bring him down. From her perspective, she understands that life and systems in India are different from those in England. What matters to her is the man she has come to know, someone she believes is wise, thoughtful, and honorable. She calls Abdul back into the room and makes a bold decision. She declares that he should be formally recognized within the royal household. In fact, she begins considering granting him the title of a knight. This is the breaking point for James. Unable to hold back any longer, he reveals that Abdul is suffering from a venereal disease. But even this does not shake the queen. She calmly instructs James to treat him, reminding him that he is a doctor.
Listen, you pox-ridden Indian shit! Why don't you bloody well leave her alone to read?
Meanwhile, the rest of the royal officials gather in secret. They strongly oppose the idea of Abdul being knighted and threaten to resign from their positions if the plan moves forward. Because of this, a representative is sent to speak directly with the queen. Nervous but determined, she delivers a collective message from the royal staff, urging the queen to reconsider granting Abdul such an honor. If she refuses, they warn that they will all step down.
If you refuse, the entire household will resign.
The queen sees this as nothing less than betrayal, a coordinated attempt to undermine her authority. Bertie pushes even further, demanding that she abandon all plans involving Abdul. To him and the others, elevating Abdul would be an insult to the crown. He even threatens to have her declared mentally unfit for duty.
We will have you certified insane. Here are the papers, signed by Dr. Reed.
But when the queen sees it, she immediately turns the situation around. She makes it clear that such cheap tactics will not work on her. She reflects on her decades of leadership, reminding them that she has ruled for over 60 years and is fully capable of governing. Soon after, she summons all the royal officials to gather in the Durbar room. Standing before them, she challenges anyone who wishes to resign to step forward and say it to her face. No one dares to move. In the end, she announces a compromise. She will not grant Abdul a knighthood. Instead, she appoints him as the head of the household, effectively replacing Sir Henry as a personal act of recognition from the Queen herself. Not long after this confrontation, the Queen suddenly collapses. At the same time, tragic news arrives. Muhammad has passed away. He is buried within the royal grounds, and the Queen personally attends his funeral. Afterwards, she speaks privately with Abdul, acknowledging that her health is declining. She warns that once she is gone, she will no longer be able to protect him. But Abdul remains steadfast, keeping his promise to stay by her side for as long as she lives. As time goes on, the Queen's condition continues to worsen. Eventually, she is confined to bed for long periods, growing weaker with each passing day. In her final moments, Queen Victoria calls Abdul Karim into her room and asks everyone else to leave. Alone with her, Abdul gently comforts the Queen as she struggles with the fear of death. Slowly, his presence calms her, and in that quiet moment, she is finally able to pass away in peace. She does not die surrounded by her children or her royal advisors. Instead, she spends her final breath beside the man who stood by her with loyalty, someone she had come to see almost like a son. That night, the entire kingdom mourns her passing after more than 60 years on the throne. With her death, Bertie ascends as the new king, becoming Edward VII. After the Queen's body is prepared, Abdul returns to pay his final respects to the woman he had served for so many years. But while he is there, something else is happening behind his back. Bertie and the royal officials go to Abdul's home and forcibly remove everything connected to the Queen. They destroy his belongings and burn anything that ties him to her. When Abdul returns and sees what has been done, he is devastated. Soon after, he and his family are expelled, with nothing left behind. The only thing he manages to keep is the locket the Queen once gave him, a small but powerful reminder of their bond. With nowhere else to go, Abdul returns to India with his family. In the end, he visits a statue of Queen Victoria in front of the Taj Mahal and pays his final tribute in the only way he knows. He arrives back in India in 1901 and passes away 8 years later. This story itself remains hidden for over a century, only coming to light after Abdul's personal journals are discovered in 2010, finally revealing his extraordinary journey to the world. So the moral of the story is the only person who truly sees your worth can disappear, and the world will erase you like you never mattered.